Welcome to Emerging Franchise Brands, the podcast that introduces you to the visionary founders of America's fastest growing franchise opportunities. We'll also hear from industry pros as they share insights on what it really takes to achieve the elusive milestone of 100 plus locations. I am your host, Frank Fumey, founder of I9 Sports, and my 20-year journey from inception to acquisition has given me a unique perspective on how to succeed in franchising. Join me as we welcome today's guest. Well, hello everyone and welcome to Emerging Franchise Brands. On today's show, I have Sawsan Abublan, who runs the Shawarma Press franchise with her husband. How are you?
I'm doing great, Frank. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's so nice to have you on the show. And you know, Sawsan, your franchise is very, very unique for us. Of course, we've never had a Mediterranean food franchise, and I'd love to learn more about you guys and how this whole thing came to be.
Thank you for having me, Frank. I'm very excited to be on your show, and yes, I would love to share with everyone a little bit about Shawarma Press. We are by far the first shawarma franchise in the United States. And if you're not familiar with the cuisine, shawarma is actually a very popular street food in the Middle East, specifically the Mediterranean region. So if you've been to Jordan, Jerusalem, Turkey, and some parts of Europe as well, Germany. So it is a very popular, street food in those areas. And it is made from thinly stacked chicken or beef layers that are hand stacked in a cone shape. And it's rotating in front of like an upright grill. So this process, produces the shawarma wrap. And it's a very unique taste, something that my husband and I grew up eating for a very, very long time. And we were craving quite a bit when we came to the United States. That's where this whole thing started.
Sawsan, it's challenging enough to franchise your concept, but you're not from this country, so you came here from where? How did you guys do this? How did you came from another country and then you go right into franchising? Share with us the background.
So no, not at all. So this was not a spur of the moment type of thing. My husband and I were both corporate professionals. So myself, I'm a pharmacist. I went to pharmacy school and I came to the United States in 98 and I got my license in the state of Texas. So I was practicing full-fledged counseling, dispensing, everything type of pharmacist. And my husband has a PhD in supply chain management from the University of Cincinnati. So he came to the States a while before I did. Our families are originally from a city near Jerusalem. So we grew up with this cuisine and we spent all these years in the United States being in corporate America, like professionals, doing our work. And in 2010, after about 10 and 15 years of working here, so 10 for me, 15 for my husband, we had a strategic planning meeting. And I'm like, okay, so it's been this long. What are we going to do? What is it that we can do for ourselves for the next 10, 15 years? And my husband, as a professional, with supply chain and all that, he was like, okay, we have to find a niche in the market and we have to build a project around it. And this project has to be franchisable. So it was a very thought through idea. We knew that we want to go into franchising because this is the industry that makes sense for any project to be able to grow. Otherwise, it would have stayed as a one shop, like mom and pop store, with all due respect to those projects. But this is not what we were planning on doing. So between 2010 and 2016, it was market studies and like trying to understand the gaps in the market and what we want to come up with. And through my husband's travel, for consulting, he was like, wait a minute, like nobody's making shawarma the right way. Nobody's making it the authentic way. It doesn't taste the same. It's not made the same. And so this is where in 2016, we knew what we want to do. And in 2017, we opened our first store.
Wow. Did you both leave your careers at the same time to open your first store?
As a matter of fact, no, we did not. So at first, it sounded like we could just theoretically, put this into play with the experts, right? So we hired a chef who went to culinary school specifically for shawarma in Jordan, and he had moved to the United States, and we were able to recruit him to start the culinary part. And then we hired, a manager to run the place. So at first, it sounded like a perfect scenario where we could still keep our jobs and have a franchise, or at least like a store. Of course, it was only one location going. But the pharmacist in me didn't like that. So I was like, nope, I have to be there. I need to make sure that everything is done properly and in compliance with all the laws and regulations, because consultants, with all due respect, can lay the ground for you, but you need someone to follow and be compliant. So I was working part-time. My husband, Ihab, he was working full-time. So I said, you know what, you continue to pay our bills, I'll go run the business. And so, within the first couple of months, I left or retired pretty much from my job in pharmacy, and I took over, and here we are.
That's great. And you opened your first location in Texas, right? That's where you guys live?
Exactly. So in Irving, Texas. Yes.
Great. Right outside of Dallas. And you have, do I understand right? You have 7 franchise locations now.
So right now we actually have a total of 10 altogether, 5 corporate locations and 5 franchisee locations. 2 of them are about, in the process of finding locations, but 3 of them are on the ground open. Yeah.
Okay. So this is really another unique way of franchising, because most franchisors, they'll get that 1 unit established, maybe 2, and then they say, okay, I want to franchise. But I love the fact that you guys went ahead and established that you have 5 company-owned locations and 5 franchise. Strategically, what do you guys think? Do you want to keep going with a mix of corporate-owned stores and franchising, or do you want to go more franchise? And if so, what are your thoughts behind that?
I think if we really wanted to decide on it, it would have been like balanced to that extent. It just happened that we had an opportunity to grow within Walmart because they were looking for local brands to replace the other, I would say, franchise food vendors that were inside Walmart. And when we got this opportunity, we had to open those stores inside Walmart ourselves. We couldn't really franchise those out at that time. So we grew from 1 to 5 locations in 2022 because of that. And it was great because it gave us more footprint on the map, right? And at the same time, it helped us actually challenge the process and really truly find out if this was replicable or not, because we really didn't have anybody else's story to hear or follow or learn from. So we had to learn from our own experiences. And I'm extremely happy to say that we had very, very few kinks that we had to iron out. We were able to replicate, and we were able to run, multiple locations with I would say the framework that we established, whether it's the ops manual or the store policies, the equipment, layout, and all that. So this is how the corporate locations came about. And then meanwhile, because of this growth and because of this, I want to say proven concept, because now it's proven, right? Before, nobody has heard of shawarma, and we were only one location, and people were skeptical. Like, are you going to be able to support me? Am I going to be able to run a second location? Now, the franchisees came in, and they were location number 6 and 7, right? And And so to a proven concept, so it was easier to expand on the franchise as, for franchisees. And to answer your original question, I guess it all depends, right? If franchisees who are qualified come along and we vet them and we approve them, then by all means, yes, let's grow more with franchisees. But if I find a location nearby that is a second generation restaurant that I can turn around with, a small budget, then I'll do that as a corporate location as well.
That's great. I love that you're open-minded, and at the end of the day, you just want to have the best possible location, whether it's, company owned or franchise. That's great. What about, you're in such a crowded, not that shawarma's crowded, but just the quick food, casual concept. It's a crowded space. So let's talk about the actual food, the quality of it, and what makes you guys so different other than the fact that it's shawarma. Tell us more about the actual food itself.
Frank, you're absolutely right. I mean, we came into a very, very competitive market, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, there's food, I guess restaurants and vendors everywhere, right? In every corner. And we had to prove ourselves with a couple things. Number one, being a niche, concept in the QSR, right? So there are very beautiful, fancy Mediterranean restaurants that are well established and they serve amazing food, right? But you have to go and dine in or go to a buffet of that nature, right? But in the QSR realm, there are only a few. So when shawarma came in, number one, we're a concept that has not been introduced in a franchising, I guess, way before. And two, we insisted, and I say that in COVID and post-COVID kind of world. So we insisted on the quality of our ingredients. So we did not cut corners when it comes to the chicken and the beef that we use. We did not cut corners on the hummus and the falafel that we make. We make those from scratch, right? And I've heard a lot of people from the industry, as well as maybe sometimes customers, saying, well, why don't you just get it, from this source? It's a powder, for the falafel, for example, and you mix it with some water, whatever. So we did not cut corners. So we continued with our, I guess, strength in that aspect, which is the high quality ingredients. And the third thing, we also came to a very good time for Mediterranean concepts, right? So now Mediterranean is on the rise. It's in big demand. Every owner of like a building or a facility where they're, wanting some food concepts, they insist on having, a Mediterranean concept in addition to the other concepts that they may have. So that big demand for healthy alternatives, specifically Mediterranean, was to our advantage. But at the same time, we had to compete by not, I guess, lowering the expectations on the quality of the food.
Totally. It's the reason why you're probably so super successful. It's because it's authentic Mediterranean. It's not franchise Mediterranean, if you know what I mean, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. It's hard. And that takes a lot of effort to maintain, quite honestly.
Of course. So you might not grow as fast as another brand, but it sounds like that you guys don't want to compromise the quality for quantity of locations. Like, you don't need to necessarily be the Chipotle of Mediterranean. Not that you couldn't be, but it is going to be super difficult to keep that quality intact.
I call that meaningful growth.
Yeah.
And I really mean it because, I have a lot of applicants. Like, people come through the website, they come through other, outlets. But the issue is that, do I really want to grow with numbers, or do I really want to grow successfully, right, with those numbers? And I chose B. Because, I'd rather go slow, meaningful growth versus expand at the expense of the brand quality.
Sure. And it's not just the quality of the food, but it's also how we interact with the community. And I understand you guys did something pretty special during COVID because it couldn't have been easy. Obviously, trying to open locations during COVID. Of course, we know that there was an explosion of, DoorDash and Uber Eats and everything. But why don't you share with the audience a little bit about what you guys did during COVID?
Well, thank you, Frank. Actually, this experience, I think, is the most profound experience of my life, quite honestly. So
Really?
during COVID, yeah, as we all know, COVID was devastating for restaurants because many of them didn't even make it, right? I mean, we were losing business, we were losing um, the revenue, rent, all of that. We were not able to sustain ourselves. And so many restaurants had to shut down. I made the decision to keep my doors open for my employees to continue to have, jobs and to be able to pay their own bills. Now, granted, we did not give everybody 40 hours a week, but at least they were able to come in and make, hours and get paid. The other thing that I did is that I looked around and I found many other people who are way less fortunate than we are, right? At least we were able to keep our doors open. We were able to pay our employees, but there are many others who ended up in homeless shelters or were already on the streets and didn't have the support that they used to have. So I collaborated with nonprofits in our area, and I encouraged, everybody that I know who is in the restaurant business to do that. But it is difficult, right? I mean, when you are holding on to your dear dollar because you don't know if you're going to have it the next day or not, it's difficult to give that away or part of it away. But nonetheless, this is a lesson that I learned in my life, that it is always a good time to give back to the community, to charity. And so we collaborated with the nonprofits in our area, and we were able to make serious, fresh, hearty meals and take them to the homeless shelters. And my team was so excited, but at the same time surprised. Is like, really? I mean, we don't have customers and you're giving away food. And I was like, no, this is not giving away. This is giving back, right? And this is going to come back and bless us in so many other ways. And it still does. It still does. People still ask me about this and talk about it. And I say it with all humility that I never made this for publicity reasons. I really made it because in my heart, I believe that we have to help each other. And we still do. And honestly, Frank, 90% of our giving is unpublicized, untold, unmarketed for, because that's not why we do it. And, if someone would like to tell that we donated to them and share with others and thank us for it, then great. But 90% of our giving is actually tucked, where it should be. And it's not talked about, right?
That's beautiful. It's so beautiful when you're willing to give back without truly getting or expecting anything in return. And
Absolutely.
it's that kind of karma that's going to lead your brand to much higher heights. You know that, right?
Thank you. That's what I'm hoping for. Absolutely. And I feel it. I feel it honestly. We emerged from COVID, as a matter of fact, stronger than ever, because this is immediately after COVID is when we were able to expand through Walmart, right? And then franchisees heard about us, and we were able to close some deals. And I think part of that is secretly giving back to the community and just wait for the blessings to come back in a different way.
Yeah, I kind of feel like your brand is like a lightning in a bottle right now, but you're controlling how much and how fast that lightning is going to go. And I think that that's going to be really challenging, because as this brand continues to catch fire, telling people no in franchising is a challenge, even if it is feeling like it's the right person, because you need to really grow at that right pace, for you guys. Tell me though, what is kind of the ideal franchisee? What does the ideal franchise owner look like? What are the traits that they typically have with their background that come to you?
For Shawarma Press, I think what we're looking for is someone who is a true entrepreneur, like someone with that fire in them that they want to do something and they want to do it for themselves rather than, let me go ahead and open a franchise and have someone else, run it for me. What I'm looking for after my own experience is that someone who actually has that spirit and they want to sweat it. They want to talk the talk and walk the walk, right? I just don't want them to come and say, all right, here you go, take my money and put my name on a store. That would be great, but what I'm looking for, quite honestly, after my own experience, is someone who wants to do this for themselves and actually have a business to their name. And at the same time, I want them to be flexible enough to trust me that why do you have to do this a certain way? Is because, trust me, I learned from my own mistakes. So they need to be able to follow the policies and the rules and the guidelines as well. So entrepreneurs sometimes, they can be a little bit too excited and they want to change everything, thinking that, okay, you know what, but I can do this a little bit better or just change it. I think at this time, if they're going to be a franchisee, there's a reason why we hand them over those ops manuals and guides. But at the same time, I still want their spark to shine through and actually take this forward.
Yes. This is so interesting. Now, I'm new at podcasting, right? I'm not a professional. I'm not a journalist. I'm not a media guy. I'm just somebody who's been in franchising, and I have had very limited experience with talking with other founders in the food business and food concepts. However, recently I did interview somebody that was in the food concept franchise, and they also said that having somebody as a franchisee with entrepreneurial spirit was important. Whereas I noticed in some of the other concepts, some of the other service-based, we just want somebody that's going to follow the rules strictly. And here's the thing, Sawsan, that this franchisor said is that I needed their entrepreneurial spirit in the restaurant because I need them willingly to put in those hours. And yes, they have to follow the system, but it's a whole lot different than if it's just manager-based, because this franchisor was all about the quality also. That's a lot different than most franchises, is it not?
Absolutely. And I'll tell you why, Frank. It's because we can put everything in place, right? We can hire the people and we can give them the ingredients to work with. But without a leader with passion, this is not going to go anywhere. This is going to be just like any other regular restaurant that you walk into and you don't feel anything. You just, you eat the food and go. What I'm looking for, and I'm pretty sure the other franchisor that you were speaking to kind of, feels the same way. I need someone to welcome you when you come in as if you're walking to their own homes. And I want my employees to walk into my restaurant every morning knowing that they're going to have a fulfilling, day, right? I mean, yes, we're going to chop tomatoes and onions and chicken and beef like we do every single day, but the environment, the culture that they are going to work in is very important. So we're talking about two things that are related. So the passion is towards the customers.
Yes.
Towards the employees. And I think a lot of people forget about their employees. They think they just clock in and clock out, and they just, but that's not how we do it at Shawarma Press. And I'll tell you more about it in a little bit later.
Yeah, well, let's talk about that, because I think where a lot of entrepreneurs go wrong is they put the focus strictly on the, customers always first and focus strictly on the customer. But if we take care of our employees and we make them valued and make them super important, we make them the priority. And when I mean employees, I'm talking also franchisees. When they are our highest priority, they take care of the customers and we work together as a team. Why don't you share a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. So yes, you actually nailed it. It's not just about the customers. We're talking about the employees and the franchisees as being part of the family. And I know it's cliche. A lot of people use this word, but in June of 2023, my husband Ehab and I, we had the privilege and the honor to be in New York accepting the Silver Stevie Award for Shawarma Press for specifically diversity and inclusion. So they had so many categories, but we actually won the Silver Stevie for diversity and inclusion. And what that really means, and I said that in New York when I accepted the award, is that this is something we live every day. So it's not like diversity and inclusion because, maybe on paper, which is actually true, that we have employees, vendors, and franchisees from 5 different continents who converse in 10 different languages. This is true. It's a true statement. But do we actually live, this on daily basis? We accept each other. We love each other. We come and collaborate with each other. And food, shawarma specifically, is the universal language that brings everybody together. This is not cliche. It is true. I have employees who have been with me from day one. One of them specifically started as a cashier. He was in high school, and now he's a store manager in my downtown Dallas location. So this is the type of environment that Shawarma Press actually presents and lives through. And I'm very proud of that. And it would not have happened if I was not personally passionate about it, right? And this is what we're talking about.
Oh, it's infectious, right?
Exactly. So we wanted a leader to the business, whether it's a franchisee or the franchisor, to actually be passionate about this towards the employees and towards the customers. And it shows, and it paid off.
It sure does. And what about your employees? What does your team look like? How many employees do you have, and kind of what's their what are the roles that they play for your franchise from the franchisor headquarters?
Got it. Yes. So at this time, we have 5 people. So myself, I'm the CEO. My husband, Ihab, is my counterpart, co-founder. And we both, basically, we do a lot of the strategic planning for the franchise. I take over the operational side. I have 2 team members who specifically talk to leads and franchisees, and so they handle the what I call franchise development. So we don't really call it sales because we're not in the business of selling franchisees. We truly feel that we award those franchise agreements to qualified investors, right? I mean, they're partners, they're investors, they're not just franchisees. And then I also have one more corporate employee who does the store sites visitations and ongoing training and things like that. So right now I have a total of 5 in my corporate.
You're gonna have a lot more people before you know it.
I need a lot more people. I can feel it.
It is coming. So you're not too new in franchising. I mean, you guys have been franchising since 2017. So Sawsan, what about this growth here on how do you know when you can grow and scale more quickly? Because it is coming. And what do you think it's going to take for you guys internally to say, yeah, I think we can turn this up a bit?
At the moment, I feel that I should have like one more person who is the direct franchise operations guy, because I have done that for my corporate locations, me personally, right? And so I'm the one who meets the franchisees for discovery days, and then help them throughout, I want to say, like the construction phase. First location search and franchise construction phase and all of that. And I think at this time, for me to be able to scale, that I need a professional who is going to do that. And maybe also, which is difficult post-COVID, but maybe find a construction company that is willing to take on all incoming franchisees. Because right now, it's a simple layout that a lot of people think that, okay, I can find a friend who's a contractor who can actually, make those changes, especially if it's a second generation restaurant. But I'm thinking, yeah, that's okay now. But if we actually open up the gates, then I'm going to have someone who's willing to do that for all of my locations and just execute on on that much quicker and with affordable, prices. So I don't know. That's what I'm thinking right now.
Do I dare ask you what's your vision of like how big is big for your brand? Come on, I know you've thought of something.
Yeah. No, I'm still though on the conservative side,
Yeah.
because I think I grew from 1 to 10 between 2020 and 2023 because we wanted to franchise earlier, but then COVID hit, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I have 10 locations in 3 years, but I think I can do 10 per year for the next 5 years. So I think we could end up with 50 more in the next 5 years. I still feel this is conservative. There's a lot of other franchises that would grow maybe faster,
Sure.
but I think I can sustain that and just maintain the quality. Also, the challenge with shawarma is the supply chain of the proprietary products, because see, this is not, and with all due respect to any other food industry, but this is not burgers that you can get from the store, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's stuff that we make at our commissary, hand stacked and prepared for every store and delivered to the stores. The same with the falafel and the hummus. So I have to think about the supply chain from that aspect as well. I can't grow too fast, and I don't have enough people stacking those codes. So that's another challenge that I have to always keep in the back of my mind before I decide to explode.
Right. Well, how many states are you in now?
So we are in Texas mostly. I have a franchisee location coming in the Atlanta area, in the Johns Creek, Georgia. So they signed up for 3 locations. Their first one is coming up. Actually, they just got their permit today. I just got the great news.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so they got their permit to actually open. So renovation done, everything is done. They have the permit to actually open their doors. They just got it today. So we're in Texas and Georgia. I have a franchisee in Kansas, in Lawrence, Kansas, who is looking for a location as we speak. So we are in 3 states at the moment. Growth-wise, I think I will also grow gradually from Texas kind of upwards like that. So I'm not going to jump to any coastal locations yet, so.
I think that's a great idea. Philosophically, franchisors either do that, obviously they start out regionally, or they go completely shotgun approach. And sometimes they don't even do that on purpose. They do that by accident, which is what I did. Before you knew it, I was New York to Hawaii within the first 2 years. And it was an accident. I didn't mean to do that, but that's how it turned out. And it definitely creates challenges when you do that shotgun approach, especially for your concept where the quality of the food is so important. And it's not about how fast, there's horse races. We have to make sure we keep that quality, that growing out regionally and spreading your wings out that way. Sounds like that. It makes sense. What advice would you give to people who are considering joining Shawarma Press as a franchise owner?
Definitely. Okay. So for that, I really want them to do their homework, and I want them to shop around. I want them to go and actually educate themselves. Most people are surfing the net and they find something and they look at the pictures and they think, oh, that looks very yummy. That is not enough to open a franchise, right? So I really want them to do their homework, understand what franchising means. It is a long-term relationship. It's a 10-year commitment, right? And for them to go into that commitment, they need to know what it takes. That's one. 2, for them to shop around is very important for me, because when they come to me, they know that what I'm asking for, as far as whether it is the franchise fee or the upfront cost or the royalty or the national marketing, all of this is not going to be new to them. I don't have to tell them that, wait, well, I'm doing this because everybody else is doing it. So I need them to do their homework. And also, like we just said, I need them to bring their entrepreneurial spirit with them and be ready to actually put some sweat, and tears into that. It's not going to be handed out to them. Yes, I'm going to give them my hard work, and all my experiences and how I made it so far with Shawarma Press, but it doesn't mean that they're just going to take it and run with it without, putting any effort. So it will require effort. And I really need them to know that.
I love it. I love that you want them to do their homework and look at other concepts and consider everything before they move forward. That you're obviously very confident in what you guys do, and they have to be a right fit. Ultimately, at the end of the day, this franchisor or franchisee relationship is really a two-way street.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, Sawsan, what would your franchisees say is your greatest leadership strength?
Well, I hope they see that, because honestly, Frank, I'm always available to take their calls and answer their texts, no matter what. And my husband always says, you're always on your toes. You're always, answering very quickly. And I say, I don't feel, the need to answer quickly. I need to give them solutions. So the fact that I'm answering the call or answering the text is because I have a solution for their question, or I have a solution for their problem. And I don't want them to wait a second longer without that solution. So there's a big difference between just saying, okay, let me look into it, versus here's what you need to do. Here's who you need to call. And I feel that is the strength that I provide to them. That's the kind of support that I'm providing them with, is solutions, and not just, yeah, okay, great. Thanks for letting me know, or you're on your own. So I hope they see that, because that's what I'm doing.
I know they do. Sawsan, I don't know if you know this, but you are building a legacy business. When you say things like that, and the kind of value that you're providing your franchisees as that, as co-founder, you are creating a legacy that is going to last a lifetime, and the impact on franchisees. I don't think you're aware of how big of an impact you're going to be making on people for a long time to come.
Thank you. This is my hopes, and I do it with full sincerity, and I really want them to succeed. I always tell them when we are on calls, I say, royalty is just an outcome. What I really want to see is you personally succeed and actually make this your own business and grow your business. And then, giving me the royalty at the end of the week or the end of the month is just a subsequent result of that. And that's not my target. My target is for your investment to actually be worthwhile, and for you to grow. So again, with all sincerity, that's my target.
Why don't you share with the audience, if someone's interested in learning more about the opportunity, where can they learn more?
Well, we have two websites. One of them is shawarmapress.com, which is the customer-facing website where they can go and look at the menu, place an order online, which, by the way, we have online ordering, we have app ordering. So there's a lot of conveniences there, and they can try the food. But also I have shawarmapressfranchise.com, and that is a dedicated website specifically for people who are interested in franchising. It tells them a lot about our concept. It tells them about the startup cost. It also gives them a lot of news about us. There are blogs that they can read that are very, very beneficial for just general, just people who are looking for educational, information about business in general. So it doesn't specifically say Shawarma Press this or that. It's just, we're using these blogs to educate people who are looking to start their own business.
That's great. Excellent. Okay. So I always finish with, I call the tip jar, because franchising is such a generous community. You're not a newbie at franchising, Sawsan. You've been doing this now for 6 years. I'd like to know, what advice would you give to an aspiring entrepreneur that's looking to franchise their concept?
I really want to tell them what my attorney told me, which is something that I did because I come from a highly regulated industry as a pharmacist. So as pharmacists, we have lots of rules and regulations that we have to follow. So the first thing that I did was to bring, a lawyer on board. Now we had a special retainer arrangement because we couldn't afford, of course, the high hours, which is something that my advice is to get two people on board before you do anything. Get an attorney and a CPA or an accountant, because this, I know, seems like a very high upfront cost, but it will save you a ton of money, thousands of dollars along the way. And this is I think the mistake that a lot of entrepreneurs fall into, is that they try to do it themselves at first and then they pay the price. But really and truly, my advice is to look for accounting support and legal support. And there are many ways to do that on retainer basis, because you don't have to pay the hourly rate for legal and accounting support. So please, please, please do that before you get into any business, because again, it's going to save you a lot of money along the way.
That is great advice. And I would add to that, if you're going to get an attorney, make sure they are a franchise attorney, not an attorney that says, I can do franchising, right?
Yes. 100%, 1000% agree. Totally. Yes.
Yeah. I would say one of the places, if somebody is thinking that they're looking for a franchise attorney, they can go to the IFA website at franchise.org and they can look in the supplier list and they'll see all the franchise attorneys in there. Of course, it's not, all of them, but those IFA member franchise attorneys, though, are on that list. So that's great advice. Great advice, Sawsan. Well, I would say that I'm very excited about your concept. As soon as you open a location in the Tampa Bay area, I will be there.
Thank you, Frank. And if you're ever in Dallas, Fort Worth, please let me know. I would love to host you and have you try it.
I will. Actually, we have our closest friends live in the Dallas area. So that will happen for sure.
Sounds fantastic.
Thank you for being on the show. I wish you all the best. And I'm definitely going to be watching you guys from afar too, because you have such a great concept. I just love your authenticity in what you bring to this brand and your belief in it. And not to mention, you guys have done such beautiful work in the community. I think you have exciting times to come for you guys.
Thank you, Frank. Thank you for having me. And I have to say thank you on a different level as well, because I learned a lot from your story and your experience as well. So that's definitely going to add to my knowledge and my experience. So I'd like to thank you for that.
Thank you so much. Let's make sure we stay connected.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you for tuning into the Emerging Franchise Brands podcast. For additional insights, guest applications, and to stay connected, visit us at efbpodcast.com. The Emerging Franchise Brands podcast is for entertainment purposes only, and the views expressed do not necessarily represent those of Emerging Franchise Brands, its host Frank Fiume, or Emerging Franchise Group, LLC. Any discussed franchise or investment opportunity requires thorough investigation, obtaining proper disclosure documents, and expert consultation before making any investment decisions. The podcast and its host do not offer professional advice or endorsements, and they hold no responsibility for actions, representations, accuracy, or consequential damages related to the podcast content.